Welcome. I'm Paul Merkley, and today we're talking about the legendary Frank Sinatra. First thing I want to mention, just in case we forget, is that he was not a singer-songwriter, he was a singer. He sang other people's songs. We call him a crooner, and I'll get to that in just a minute. Legendary voice, beautiful voice. A singer, our appreciation of a singer depends on the basic qualities of the voice and the way in which the person uses it. And in Sinatra's case, both were terrific. His earliest musical experiences were listening to bel canto singing, opera singing on the radio with his parents. And that's important because what is it that makes a crooner? Well, we think of the envelope of a sound. Does it start out loud and fade quickly, the way it does on a keyboard instrument? You play the piano, that sound is loudest when the key is pressed and then it fades. Right? Classical pianists do their best to not let that happen, but it happens. Well, the idea of a crooner is that you sneak into the sound and it swells in the middle. And that is also the idea behind bel canto singing. Softly creep in, and the volume gets largest around the middle, around the middle of each note. So the first item I put on your playlist is New York, New York, but I've put it with Liza Minnelli singing because she sang it first in the movie New York, New York, and she did over 30 takes to get that version that is recorded in the movie. And when you hear her singing it, you clearly hear with each syllable that it starts softly and grows. Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. Right? There's a little crescendo in the middle. That makes the crooner style. Frank's friends, when they wanted to joke about his voice, said it sounded like he was a cow mooing, right? Because cows do that too. Cattle have a little crescendo. They start moo like that. Well, that's how Frank attacked the notes. That's what makes a crooner. That's why we use that word crooner. I'm sure that's why it was coined. So he began then listening to bel canto arias on the radio. He discovered that he had a golden voice. And one of the first bands that he was permanently a member of was Tommy Dorsey's big band. Tommy Dorsey was a trombone player, and Frank really admired Tommy Dorsey's sweetness and breath control on the trombone. You say, that's kind of a switch. I wouldn't have thought of a singer trying to imitate a trombonist, but that is how it went. And I've given you Tommy Dorsey playing I'm Getting Sentimental Over You with his band on the trombone, and you will hear that sweet, sweet playing and the long, long, long phrases with the great breath control, which was the signature of Tommy Dorsey. Usually when we think of a trombone, we think of high volume, bold. We use the term brassy, right? Brassy playing. That's not the way the man approached his instrument. Often, we say about music, music takes the path of greatest resistance, right? When you have a beautiful melody, it doesn't just go straight up and straight down. It works its way up it floats its way down. Same thing with our playing of the instruments. What makes a great classical pianist? Piano is a percussion instrument. Hammers strike strings. A great classical pianist treats it as a sustaining instrument. Softly approaches it, does every little bit of magic in the toolbox to sustain those notes. So, Tommy Dorsey is a trombonist working towards the features of the trombone that are not typical. And Frank Sinatra wanted to imitate that sound and imitate the breath control. Well, rapidly, he became the best feature of the band. No surprise there, right? The singer, everybody pays closer attention to the singer, and of the singers, his voice was the most appealing and his style of performance the most appealing. So he sang solos. He cut records with the Tommy Dorsey Band. And then he wanted a solo career. That's not surprising. How did Tommy Dorsey feel about that? Well, Frank, you have a contract with me, right? What's the point of these contracts? You take an unknown singer that has potential. You, as the band leader, are taking a bit of a risk. In Frank's case, it wasn't much of a risk. And so you tie them to your band for a time, paying them X, when probably they have the earnings potential of 5, 10, or 20X. So they had arguments about it. Tommy Dorsey wouldn't let him go. Well, one of Frank's friends was Lucky Luciano, who was a Cuban mobster. And what's the truth of the anecdote? I'm not in a position to tell you the definitive truth, but the rumor is that Lucky Luciano, let's say he made Tommy Dorsey an offer that Tommy couldn't refuse. And Frank was released from his contract and went on to his solo career. Later, he cut a record that was a tribute to Tommy Dorsey. So I've given you a chance to hear Dorsey play I'm Getting Sentimental Over You and Frank Sinatra sing the same song. So you can hear what I mean. You can say, oh yeah, I get that. And a lot of people would be surprised to learn that Frank's vocal style actually came from an anti-trend trombonist, from a soft playing, long phrasing trombonist. That's where the style came from. That plus bel canto opera. I'm guessing that not a lot of people you talk to will have put those things together in quite that way. Well, he recorded a lot and soloed a lot. And there was a year when that took a toll on his voice, because there's a physiology to singing, and like any other activity, like an athlete, they can overdo it and the body can only do so much. And he lost some of the sweet qualities of his voice for a while and had to rest it and rest it and rest it. And then it came back. And you can read an imagined account of that in Mario Puzo's The Godfather, along with some other speculation, which may well be true. But it came back, of course. When it came back, the voice was a little deeper. The breath control was the same. The voice, let's say it lost a little bit of its sweetness, retained its sustaining power and its strength. Frank always had good producers. The producers are a very important part of his career. You might not think so, but it was really the producers that, once he got going, helped him steer his style a little bit, and especially navigate this question of changing musical style. You know, what would he do as musical tastes began to change, which they did? Well, the producers helped a lot. They helped him choose songs. They helped him arrange songs to sing. And of course, he had a lot of friends in the music industry, not only producers and sound technicians, but also other singers. One of them was Paul Anka. And, well, is there a song that's more iconically Frank Sinatra than My Way? Maybe not. If you say My Way, everybody says, oh, Sinatra, oh, Sinatra. Well, you say, who wrote that song? How did it start out? Paul Anka was vacationing in France, and he turned the radio on and heard a cute little French love song with the words, comme d'habitude, as usual. And it was simply a song about a man getting up ahead of his wife in the morning. I'm the first one to wake up and look out the window as usual, comme d'habitude. I lift the covers off and I put them back on you because you don't wake up, comme d'habitude. I go out and make the coffee, comme d'habitude. Then I make breakfast, comme d'habitude. A sweet little song about a couple. Well, Paul Anka really liked it. So he contacted some people. He purchased the rights to the song. Well, rights in the music business are complicated, of course, because the composer has rights. The performers have rights. A lot of people have rights to a song. Well, for $1, he produced the rights to the song, excluding the royalties he would have to pay to the original composer every time it would be sung. That was another matter, right? Because some rights you can't even sign away, and so they wanted to retain those. But he had the right to translate the song. He had the right to publish the song with his own words. He wanted to put it into English and sing it himself. And he would gladly pay the small royalties to the performers, because that was not at a very expensive scale, because of course they were not international figures. They were just successful in France. So that was his plan. And he went back to the United States, and he was having dinner with Sinatra. And there were some of the mob people around, as he put it. Paul Anka was not shy about talking about Sinatra's mob ties. So I think we can well believe there were mob ties, not just Lucky Luciano. And he said that he noted that the members of the Rat Pack, Sinatra, Tony Bennett, and others, liked to talk like mobsters. Paul Anka says, even though they were afraid of their own shadows. These were actually really shy people, but they liked to talk tough. Anyway, he said they were talking away, and Frank intimated that he was going to retire from singing. I've had it with this music business, all this crap. I've made enough money, I'm going to retire. And Paul Anka thought, well, we have to get one more song for Frank before he retires. And so he went home and he thought, well, I'd been thinking I would sing this song, but I'm going to translate it in a way that it would suit Frank. So the tough mobster talk, I did it my way. He wrote that text in English, and then he brought it back to Frank. He said, this is your song. This is This is your swan song. This is the one you can retire on. And Frank very politely said, "Oh, but didn't you want to sing it yourself?" Paul Anka said, "No, Frank, this is your song." So today we hear it everywhere you go. I go to a barber shop where they play the Frank Sinatra radio station. I can't count the number of times I've heard that song there. So, it's a little sweet French love song that Paul Anka bought for himself, translated with a little bit of what he thought was mob speak. These singers are all as gentle as they come, right? However they want to appear. And then Frank did it his way. Music, it's never quite what you think. Always there's a little wrinkle. So, you know that his daughter, Nancy, had a brief singing career. We all remember, I suppose, These Boots Were Made for Walking, right? That she did. And most of us have probably heard the successor to Sinatra as a crooner, Michael Bublé. Well, we say it's lounge style, but what we really mean is it's going back to that Frank Sinatra era. His music, I think, has touched just about everybody on the planet. As far as I can tell, I did my graduate studies in music at Harvard University, and the composition professor there, Leon Kirshner, was, well, very avant-garde, very modern, very adventurous in the sounds he did. I mean, there's a whole world of musical style different between Leon Kirshner and Frank Sinatra. It's as if they don't speak the same language at all. And when the library was putting together an exposition of mementos of Leon Kirshner when he was getting ready to retire, they had his autograph scores and different things like that. And there was a photograph, and the librarian said, "Oh, look at this." And Kirshner said, "That's the only photo of me with Frank." So Leon Kirshner was also an admirer of Frank Sinatra. Just because you compose in a different style doesn't mean you fail to appreciate every other style. I think we all admire Frank Sinatra. I don't compose like a Frank Sinatra song either, but I love to listen to Frank Sinatra. And I sit in my barbershop and I tell a story or two, and all the conversation stops because they all want to hear about Sinatra. Why not? My barber's biggest point of bragging is that he shaved Michael Bublé. Well, this is second one. He almost had a visit for a haircut from Tony Bennett. Tony Bennett was in Toronto, and the maître d' of the Royal York Hotel said, "Oh, you gotta get a haircut at this place. It's the New York Men's Grooming Salon." New York, get it? Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. Well, thank you very much for listening. I really hope you've gotten something out of this. I hope you've gotten something, at least one thing, a little bit new. Very important to learn a little new or experience a little new. That's the spice of life that keeps us sharp. I'm a retired professor of musicology. I taught hundreds of students a year, many of them not music majors. Now I'm doing the same thing in a way for a 55 plus audience. I'm very glad you've come. Please check out our content. We have a lot at seniorsjunction.com. And we've worked hard to bring you things that will enhance your listening and maybe make a few new pathways in your precious minds, because a mind is precious and it's a terrible thing to lose. So please check us out. Please like us. Please share us. Oh, if you enjoy it and find it useful for yourselves, please subscribe. There's a great variety of music that we speak to. And I would love to see you back here. My name is Paul Merkley. I hold a PhD in music from Harvard University. I was a full-time professor of musicology at the University of Ottawa for 30 years. I'm a fellow of the Royal Society, and I just love speaking to you. I'd like to hear from you. Mostly, I'd like to see you back. Thank you for listening. Come back soon.